Today I'm joined by Konstantin Escher, freelance UX researcher based in Berlin who specializes in mixed methods and has written about the topic of blockchain UX, which I was super interested in reading about on Medium, and I'm super happy that Konstantin agreed to speak in more length with me about. So thank you, Konstantin, for joining me today. I'm so excited to get to know more about your journey as a UX researcher, your insights on mixed methods, and your thoughts on the UX of blockchain.
Thanks for having me.
So let me jump into my first question. Could you tell me how you got into UX research?
Sure. So I studied psychology in Germany and Switzerland, and in my master's, I specialized in social psychology and decision making. And so both very theoretical fields, right? Fundamental research. And in my very last semester, when I was mainly focusing on my master's thesis, I had the chance to explore a bit outside the box. And I saw an event called Introduction to Usability Testing, and I joined, and we got the chance to run an eye tracking study for Google, because the person who was running the course was a leading UX researcher at Google in Zurich. So we had the chance to work with them, and this is how I got introduced into the field, and I immediately fell in love with this kind of doing research, which so far I only knew from the academic field, where I was working as a research assistant back then. And so I immediately fell in love, and I immediately started planning my future, my career in this direction. And I was lucky enough to get a junior role right after I graduated in Berlin. And I've been working as a UX researcher ever since.
Awesome, thank you. And that leads into my next question. What is your favorite thing about your job as a UX researcher? What kind of problems do you most enjoy solving? I like that you said in one of your pieces on Medium that you could not work in jobs where you must push others down to lift yourself up. I completely agree with that.
Yeah. What I love most is that we're able to help others make better decisions and ultimately make others more successful than they would be ideally without us, by applying some skills that we seem to have that others don't seem to have, and just bringing value to people, bringing value to projects, bringing value into companies, and overall increasing the empathy towards the people who will be using your product at the end, and also empathy towards another. And I think we bring a very human aspect into developing technology, which is something that I enjoy doing and discussing with other people. Hence
your willingness to talk with me today.
Sure, absolutely.
You're a freelancer at the moment, and I wanted to know what it's like freelancing versus working for a company or agency, because many of our viewers are themselves, starting off as freelancers or maybe thinking about that.
Yeah, sure. So, my experience as a freelancer is literally 1.5 months old. I have been working in companies for the last 7 years. Recently, I was at One Football based in Berlin, which is a football media company for global football fans. For those in the US, that's soccer, not football. But I was the first user researcher there 5.5 years ago, and I was scaling up and introducing research as a discipline and educating on why this is creating value. So working very closely with design at first, but then later into all different departments, from marketing to brand definition to sales and our news department. And I ended up leading a team of 9 people, and it was a very management role. And now recently I've decided to move into freelance to get to know new companies, get to know different ways of doing research, tackling different kinds of problems in different companies that are at different stages of their development and different sizes. So that was the interesting challenge for me to move into freelance. The main difference so far for me is rather minor, which sounds weird because it feels like a very different world. But ultimately, you continue what you do within a company. You educate about what research is towards people who have no, let's say, human-centered design experience, right? you bring a lot of bottom up into the decision processes, where eventually in the past a lot of top down decisions were made. And you educate people around you on how including your customers early on creates value towards the outcome and the quality of your decisions and ultimately your product. Also benefiting, of course, the business at the end, which I think is our job to educate that there is no business interest versus a user interest. Ultimately, a user interest will lead to a business success, or a user success will lead to a business success if you're just building pleasing and enjoyable products. So I spent my day doing pretty much the same I've done at One Football. I'm educating clients on how to scale user research, how to get started with it, how to bring it to a level that is inclusive and transparent and everyone can access it and read through it, and really open door policy. That's what I'm always fighting for in companies. So far, and maybe when we speak in a year or so, I might have a different answer, but it doesn't feel like a fundamentally different way of working so far, at least for me.
Thank you. Yes, you highlighted a very key point that is also something I believe in. The business and the customer goals should be one and the same. In the end, it's about how we converge. And we'll speak about this a bit later on about Web 3.0 and how UX is developing in order to, make what we do in UX ready for that, or for our customers. For Web 3.0, right. It's about converging and the harmony. If that makes sense. So thank you. And next question, now I'm going to focus on mixed methods. So you specialize in mixed methods. Can you tell us why you prefer mixed methods and what some advantages are?
Yes. So to frame what that means, I specialize in mixed methods. I was just privileged enough to have many years of painful statistics in my psychology studies, which gave me a good education on data analysis, understanding like how to tackle research questions that you would answer in a quantitative way, not so much in a qualitative way. Well, overall, I believe, and that's a two-parter answer. From an individual perspective, you as an individual who wants to be successful in the field of user research, there will be questions thrown at you that you're just not able to answer on a qualitative level, which could be segment comparisons. Does this apply to people of different age groups? Does this apply to people of different markets? And I think if you don't have a fundamental understanding of data analysis and how to collect numbers, you will not be able to just answer potentially half of the questions that people will throw at you. So I think as a career advice, I think being specialized in both areas, like being able to hold a fork and a knife, will just give you more flexibility in terms of execution of research. And that's the point you mentioned, from also an impact perspective, I think it's very important to speak the language of numbers, which is having a business impact with what you do, because the business is a world of numbers, and qualitative research is just not always able to give the answers on a level that is expected in order to have attention from the top management within companies. You will see that people don't understand why interviewing 5 people has any meaning, right? And there are, and don't get me wrong, there is a lot of value in doing qualitative research, but not for that kinds of questions. So if you want to understand how the business speaks, you need to understand the world of numbers, and bringing them that kind of data and that kind of insights back will help you to be heard from people with a business background. That's a second reason why I believe you will be, it's worth investing time and energy into getting an understanding of data and analytics and statistics. And a third reason, and that's more looking at a team structure perspective. The way I've built my teams in the past was I wanted them to be as close to the designers and product managers as possible on their different cross-functional teams. So you could imagine a team that is working on one area of product or one area of action. So a news consumption element. So the news team, and you're the researcher within that news team. Now, over the time, there will be moments where you are having research questions that you need to answer on a qualitative level and research questions that you need to answer on a quantitative level. Since you are so close to these people, you're becoming the expert in that field and you have so much knowledge. And if you're not able to tackle one methodology, you need to bring in another person, right? You say, oh, that's our quant expert. You bring that quant expert in, but that person has no touch points with that team. And this person needs to be updated and introduced to the discipline. And what are you actually trying to achieve? So you lose time. You always have the problem of knowledge transfer. So I believe a researcher should be able to just tackle all sorts of questions. And you're just more interesting for the market overall. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, I made this note here. You mentioned in one of your articles, it's important for UX research to stay relevant, and therefore, as you just said, to reiterate what you've said, if you specialize in qual or if you specialize in quant, the way to go is to, like you said, learn how to pick up a fork if you're just using a knife, or vice versa, to stay relevant. Because as you mentioned earlier in one of your earlier answers, it is still our job as UX practitioners to educate companies and businesses as to why UX is important. So yeah, this is very much a need. Thank you. So my next question is, based on another quote of yours: create a space so everyone in your team can be a teacher and a student. How important is it for researchers to peer review? How do you do this as a freelancer?
I think it's extremely important to peer review. And I think peer review is a term that is very much interpreted on a code level. So in engineering, from an engineering setup, that's not necessarily what I'm referring to, but it could be if you're, for example, working with analytics scripts. So for example, you're having your R or your Python code, and you might collaborate on GitHub. And yes, I do believe it makes sense to apply high standards of writing code also to research practices. So having a peer review in that sense, making sure that the analysis is right, that the base sample is right, that you apply, that your analytics is correct. But it starts earlier, and that's why I'm like broadening the term of peer review here a bit, which is about educating more junior researchers to not run away from the uncomfortable moments in the early stages of your research. What do I mean by that? I think every research starts with sitting together, understanding what you need to learn, what you really want to understand, and how you will create an outcome that ultimately has an impact. What I've observed is that junior researchers feel more comfortable in the execution phase than in that preparation phase. Meaning, if someone comes to you, a product manager or designer, and says, hey, I want you to do a survey, you don't know if that's true, right? You don't know if that's literally the methodology that is most applicable, because you don't know what the question is. So push that back. That's step two. Methodology is step two. Step one means you sit in a room, say, explain to me what you want to understand. And you're not happy with the first answer. You dig deeper, right? You dig deeper until you're at the essence and the core of what you really want to understand in order to help someone make better decisions. So, and that's often quite uncomfortable. You sit with people you might not know. You sit with people who are on a higher hierarchy than you are. But that's exactly the moment where research can have its impact, because if you're off the topic and if you do a project that ultimately missed the real question, it can be well executed, but ultimately has no impact. And that's why I believe peer review on that very early stage on what are the questions, how did you come to that conclusion, what are your decisions on the methodology, et cetera, before letting people run by themselves and prepare and get started and execute. I think that's very, very important. So in my team, we had a weekly review on what we're doing, where we are, and we challenge each other. And that doesn't matter if you're the head of the department or you just joined as a junior. Everyone knows stuff, or in certain areas, anyone has more knowledge about something than others. And I want to create cultures where you can feel free to challenge people, and everyone knows when to listen and know when to speak. And in the freelancer, the same applies. You have maybe different stakeholders because you are educating directly the CEO of a company, because you're the first freelancer coming in as a researcher to say, hey, you should maybe change the way you're building products or the way you make decisions, because there is a better way of doing it. So this educational aspect, it becomes even more relevant because you're enabling companies to walk their path alone. You don't want to make them dependent on you, right? So ideally, if you're providing a real service, you educate them to do the stuff you know themselves, or help them grow it organically in their company. So you shouldn't do execution in your corner and silo, but rather help others learn to walk. That means those challenging moments of the moments where you sit with the CEO or like a head or a VP in a company, and you tell them, hey, maybe the way you've done stuff in the past was not ideal, not really necessarily a nice situation, right? Because you get challenged on different layers. You get challenged on the quality you can bring. You get challenged on your outcomes. Is that interviews? Is that numbers? That's what we discussed. So you need to go through a school of, I can be a teacher and I can be a student at the same time. And that's why I believe it's a constant growth for all of us.
Thank you for that answer. The first part, when you mentioned how junior researchers, especially from your experience, sometimes, skip over the going backwards and kind of reviewing whether their questions were correct or not, and just go ahead and work on the directive that they're given, maybe incorrectly by senior management or someone that's not in UX themselves. It's very philosophical. So what I'm learning the more I speak to UX researchers such as yourself is a lot of these things, when it comes to understanding human-centered behavior and being empathetic, it's very philosophical in the end. So I think it can apply to people in general and how they do their work. It's not necessary that our listeners are in the field of UX, but it's something to take away and learn to better ourselves within our careers and life. So thank you for that. And so, my last few questions will be, I'd like to talk about blockchain UX based on your article on Medium. You say Web 3.0 is built around blockchains that will enable true P2P transactions. Does this automatically mean the UX of the next generation of the web will be better?
Maybe a disclaimer on this article. I was kind of expressing some questions I had to myself on where we're heading and what the next steps will be and where we're coming from. So for those who might find a link somewhere, I'm not providing much of an answer to these questions in my article, and just I'm interested in that field. And I think peer-to-peer transactions I think it's an example that is easy to relate to and easy to understand. So I took it as in context. And does it automatically mean that the next generation of the web will be better? No, certainly not. I don't think so. And I don't think that the change will be so dramatic as the hype currently predicts. Now, I think the example of transactions is interesting because it shows different layers that we need to consider as UX specialists. So one of them being, how do you connect people on the web, right? Right now, there are networks that are very well established and that are giving you a high likeliness of meeting other people there. So that could be WhatsApp, or that could be Instagram, etc. So you go where the masses go. And the same applies to, for example, PayPal. right? It's just easy. It's a norm. People have, it has been established. So you follow the masses, which is part of my first answer. Like, is decentralized Web 3.0 literally going to work in the way we imagine it? I'm not sure, because ultimately people go where other people already are, because that's where the party started, right? And this is where you find interesting things to discover, like Twitter, etc. You wouldn't want to go back to a world where everyone has their own like silo and you need to hunt after 100 people. It's convenient to have one place where everyone is, and you can just structure your content in a convenient manner. Now, back to transactions. How do you find that person to send money to? There might be a wallet link, right, in the future. Is that more convenient than the email address we use today with PayPal? Don't know. Is convenience going to be the ultimate measurement for usage and adoption? I would predict so. So Web 3.0, no matter if it's on the blockchain technology or on the traditional technology, let's say, will need to prove that it can be convenient for people to use. Otherwise, they will struggle to migrate the masses, so to speak. And there are already first trends to be seen when it comes to like what we now call the metaverse. For example, Sandbox is, for me, super interesting project where there's one central space, distributed island where everyone can do their own thing, but it's still one economy, one global place. And the same will probably apply to most future products. Convenience is the key. So to cut my answer short, I think the technology is not actually what matters, because today we're not discussing, is this written in Python, is this written in Java, or is this like, the programming language doesn't really play a role on the UX level so much. The convenience and the fun part is what matters, and the ease of use. So can blockchain add a layer of interesting spice to the web experience? Absolutely. Does it mean it will take over all products that exist and change entirely the way we use the internet? Not necessarily. I think in gaming, there are higher chances for certain reasons. On other elements, I don't think we will see any significant changes in the years to come.
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask you, though you already kind of answered in the last question, how important it was, you thought, for UX designers or researchers to evangelize blockchain UX specifically. But as you said, blockchain, like a lot of other things that have come before it, is something fun perhaps, but UX stands alone and sort of is not necessarily going to be the future. Blockchain is not going to be the future of UX. So I think you distinguished that already.
Yeah, I honestly, I really believe it's simple. Convenience wins most of the times. And the humans that will interact with that future version of the internet are the same ones, with the same problems, with the same needs and the same preferences. So we cannot expect people to suddenly create 30 wallets for 30 coins for 30 NFTs. I think it is going to be convenience that will do the difference. And right now, everything feels very complicated, and it's very hard to get into the field unless you understand how these tokens work, how these crypto wallets work, what an NFT is, what the metaverse is supposed to be. There are so many terms, but most of them speak about the tech stack that's underneath certain projects. So there was this hype around the release of Cardano, which should enable faster transactions and enable NFT on the blockchain. What does that sentence even mean, right? What impact does this sentence have on anyone's user experience on the day-to-day basis? Probably none, right? There are certain problems when it comes to transaction speed. Sure, that is relatable, right? The Bitcoin is too slow and Ethereum right now is too slow. So people look at faster solutions such as Solana or Cardano. Good, that is relatable, right? But ultimately, all these protocols, all these platforms, people don't need to understand what that means in depth, I believe. As an average user, you cannot, or as a UX person, you cannot expect an average user to anticipate and follow all these trends that are happening right now. Ultimately, you will still log in a convenient way into a platform and do what you used to do and click on a button that does the same as the same button 10 years ago. That's my prediction, because everything else is going to be too complicated for people to adapt. But, and that's maybe an aspect that's interesting, is security. So for those who have never created a crypto wallet, you're not creating a password that you could potentially reset, like by clicking on a button, right? Forgot my password. Those times are over, right? You get 12 keys, you better store them. You better not forget them, because if you do, everything is gone. And we all read those stories from people who have 1,000 Bitcoins laying around and they just forgot their passwords. And maybe this is an educational aspect of the new web technology that will help people take security more serious, right? Could be. But maybe that's not the final answer. Maybe the keywords is just not the final answer to password security on blockchain technology. Who knows? Another aspect that I really enjoy is the transparency when it comes to product roadmaps, which I really, really like. So if you dig a bit deeper into different projects that are based on certain protocols, you will see a high level of transparency when it comes to their plans and what they want to do and how they work and what's on their roadmap for the upcoming months and years. Now, the reason, that's my assumption, is that they finance themselves through tokens and coins. Everyone who believes in the project and the future success of the project can enter and support this project, kind of in a way that you would ultimately take the stock market, but on a like peer-to-peer level and early on. So raising money through transparency and quality is an interesting one. To me, that's an interesting aspect, and I enjoy that a lot. Reading through roadmaps of different companies who try different things on different protocols, pretty cool. So there will be improvements. Will they all last forever? I don't know, but maybe we take some positive things away from that, at least on the security level.
Yeah, that's a very interesting one, highlighting the security aspect of things. I myself have a wallet and have forgotten my passwords a few times, but it is something, like you said, just taking it more seriously, confining that to memory, remembering that this is different from all the other applications I use that are very simple. When I forget a password, I just request it again, and it's almost too easy.
Yeah, way too easy. Yeah, way too easy.
Way too easy. I wanted to go back to I remember you wrote about how things being decentralized in the future, and I kind of compare this to kind of open source, how this has existed for some time with web development and development of certain platforms that we use today that have been the work of many people contributing. And I think now with the decentralized web and more decentralized applications, I wonder, let's specifically speak about UX practitioners. If you feel within your circles, since, my understanding, or being a UX practitioner myself, we want to solve users' needs, and we're very altruistic in that sense. Do you feel like the decentralized web will open a lot of doors for development with UX? Will people contribute freely?
Oh, that's very hard to say. I don't think so, honestly speaking. I think we overestimate the fundamental changes of the experience at the end. Because again, we are discussing tech stacks here right now. That's all we discuss. And yes, we have seen maybe the trailer of Sandbox. We have seen the trailer of what Facebook is envisioning for a metaverse. But again, like the technology on which this is based is not the primary concern of an end user, ultimately. It will introduce maybe different aspects of ownership. It will establish different areas of how items are transferred, how you can unlock certain areas. But that is well known from games. Like, this is not a new idea, right? That different games work in different ways, and you as a gamer and user adapt to the rules of the platform. And that's why I think we should not forget that the humans stay the same who will interact with that product. We're not all turning into cyborgs who are very tech savvy and who are very educated on the latest, greatest details of blockchain. That's not happening. It will bring new areas in, or new way of thinking in, like PayPal did, right? Why you don't need my IBAN, you don't need to transfer money through a complicated way on mobile banking. All I need is your email, and I send you money, right? No matter where you live in the world. And those aha moments, right? We will have, I believe, thanks to blockchain technology, but we quickly adapt to them, and we quickly go our way, and we go our life, and we just either move to those technologies or we don't. The market will decide, and the UX will decide. And again, it's a buzzword, it's a hype, but it's not necessarily something that will change the way we interact with technology. What's more interesting here is when you combine maybe VR with metaverse, but that's a whole different story, because then you're in the Ready Player One world of how you imagine the future. But that's going a bit far. So, as said, it's a technology conversation that we're having, not necessarily UX conversation that we're having right now. That's my feeling.
Thank you. Good point. It is a hype, and it is very buzzworthy. But like, you kind of brought us back down to earth, that in the end, humans and things in our nature don't kind of evolve overnight. So it is a gradual process, and it is a push and pull. When new technology is invented, maybe we realize with more options, we can design and develop things, new things. But before, it's like a chicken and an egg sort of thing. The technology has to kind of like update itself before we also reinvent ourselves. So
yeah, but for example, so giving two examples. So you have Western Union right now, which is literally the only way for you to send money to a person in Africa. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the only way I'm aware of. Very high fees, takes ages to actually bring that money to the person. So there's a problem, right? And there's currently one player who is sitting on that problem, and we're all dependent to use that player. So can blockchain technology solve that for us? Yeah, and that's fantastic. And I'm not going to cry one tear if Western Union is gone. There are smarter ways. There are quicker, smarter, cheaper ways to do certain things. And and then we enter this field and the question around these smart contracts, which is another of these buzzwords, right? Now, today you need to program a smart contract, and you need to define what a trigger is and what the event is. Also here, does that technology have the power to replace the entire idea of, for example, insurances? Potentially, yes, but only if it's so easy to use and simple and trustworthy, and people believe in the quality of the platform that hosts it, which again goes against decentralization, because you need that trust stamp validation of where do I run my smart contracts, you know? So that's why I think the dynamics are the same. The way we interact with it might be slightly different, but ultimately it follows the same dynamics of how humans make decisions and how humans bring trust towards digital platforms or don't.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I look forward to seeing what comes. And thank you for answering all my questions. And I don't know if you had any last musings or thoughts before we conclude.
No, super interesting. But what are your thoughts? Passing that ball back, what are your assumptions? Where do you see this going? Right. Like in the upcoming years.
Well, you know, being now in UX the last year, and not that that is necessarily related to blockchain, it's just that I have found myself writing about blockchain technology a lot on the job and working with companies. And also I'm in Hong Kong right now, and it's a big buzz around me. A lot of my peers are either personally investing or are working for companies that are. So just you know, casting my glance to what's going on around me, I see that emerging. So very passively, I see that already coming up about. And I believe that, yeah, once the hype dies down around certain things, just like with a lot of trends that come about and have a lot of different players, maybe we'll be left with what really matters. So if that's smart contracts, if that's some aspect of blockchain that is currently being worked on that you know, remain because of human interest, then that's what I guess will happen. But I do see the future as being more on the blockchain, and that's the way we're tended to. So yeah, it's a very generic answer, but yeah.
And do you see any design solutions today that would not be applicable when applying blockchain technology below it? That we really have to redefine patterns, behavioral patterns that would necessarily need to change in a significant way when moving into blockchain? Good
question.
Because that's what I'm wondering. Huh? That's right. Exactly my. Right. That's exactly what I'm wondering about. Like,
what you said. Oh no, sorry. What you said earlier in your last answer, I agreed with, like, what we already have will be what we already are doing is not bad, you know, like lots of years of evolution, and therefore we, you know, will build upon it. But I can't see, like, you know, the question is hard. I can't see what in existence is doing a good job already that won't be able to work.
Yeah, I mean, we can be creative about this, and this is a conversation we can have. For example, so imagine a world in which people sell products to another without eBay in the middle. No eBay that is dictating the price, dictating the rules, defining restrictions to people, forcing you into a premium account. None of that exists, right? You can sell a product to anyone who wants to buy it directly peer-to-peer. On paper, that sounds fantastic, right? That it sounds very interesting. My question, and I'm not even skeptical, I'm just saying I don't know what this will look like, and the future will tell, is what is this experience going to feel like? Will it really happen? Because how do I realize who's interested in my product? How do I communicate with that person? How do we manage the payments? Like, what's the trust level we gain to another? And the trust is currently sitting on eBay, right? It's the platform on which everything is happening, and I trust the platform to act in everyone's good favor. Now, if you remove that element, what needs to happen in order to make that an enjoyable experience? That's my question. And starting from finding the right people to giving them the trust or getting the trust from them, all of that is interesting. Same as with Facebook or Instagram. How do I express myself on the web? How do I meet people? If everything is decentralized, where's my home, right? And I think the Web 2.0, as it is today, has taught us that there are places for needs, right? If I go somewhere, if I want to find people, I go somewhere if I want to express myself, I go somewhere if I want to listen to music or watch videos. Now, I just doubt that decentralization will have a significant impact on UX. Like that's not on technology necessarily, but on UX certainly, because people act in groups and they follow groups and they want to be where groups are. So the interesting aspect will be, where does this rule break in the next years? It might be transactions, it might be insurances, it might be online banking, but not social interaction won't be a decentralized experience. How can it be? So, and I might be entirely wrong, and I cannot wait to see what's going to happen.
I agree. Sorry, by the way, just to say my light was freaking out a little bit. I think it's been on, my LED light decided to have a little disco to show, probably with our conversation about technology, that maybe we know too much, and it's like ready Player One.
We just need to chill down.
We need to chill down. Yeah, like technology is like answering the question for me. But yeah, I completely agree. Like, you know, we act in groups, and perhaps like early humans might have acted alone, but you know, we're also kind of testing our humanness with all of this. And in the end, we try our best to make things more seamless, experience more seamless, more what we think to be human, though in the end we do like talking about things, we do like maybe postponing decisions when it comes to making a purchase online, because we just like talking about it and spending time. So in the end, there may be a set of people that want things instantly, and that instant gratification without any interaction, but that might be a subset of people that we're, you know, currently focusing on to improve experiences. But in the end, what if that changes and people, like you say, like value the interaction more? And but yeah, so it's a very fascinating topic.
Definitely. Yeah, more questions were raised and answers were given, right? But I think that's the time we're in right now when it comes to these changes and like hitting into the new era, seeing like what's actually behind the mountain that we're trying to climb here. How different does it look? And I think no one knows yet. Let's see.
Yeah, let's have more conversations like these. And,
sure.
Yep. Thank you so much, Konstantin, for joining me today. And I'm sure our audience will have also a lot more questions than answers, but that's the way to go, especially in UX. So cool.
My pleasure. Yeah. Let's keep the conversation up. Super interesting. And good luck for you and UX Boost.
Thank you so much.